Hello, it's Mr. Broadbent here. Today you guys are going to write a practice news report for me to prepare for the literacy test, but I just want to go over some of the things we talked about earlier in the semester, just as a bit of a refresher. So remember, the newspaper report's worth about 12% of your literacy test mark, and you get one full page to do it. So make sure you fill the space. First thing you want to do is take a look at the directions. You have to write a news report where you make up the facts. Okay, you need to make sure you answer the who, what, where, why, when, and how. It has to relate to both the headline and the picture. And your job here is to report. So you're describing it objectively. You're not using your own opinions. You're not saying I or me or my. You're supposed to report on the event so that somebody who's reading this newspaper can tell what happened there. One of the first things you'll want to do is look closely at the headline and the picture. This is going to be the event that you're going to focus on. Okay, students participate in important election, and you want to look at the picture. And I see she's smiling here. You know, they look like they're
Mr. White, please call 4000. Mr. White.
They look like they're participating in a happy election. They're excited. Maybe they're not disappointed to be doing this. So that's gonna be the focus of my event. That they're participating in an important election and that they look happy on this election day. So you'll probably want to begin by organizing your thoughts. They won't give you this on the actual literacy test, but it's something that is fairly easy to remember, because you want to do the who, what, where, why, when, and how all down the side here, and you want to make sure you answer those questions in depth. So you want to answer them once in your lead. So that will really be the first sentence of your news report. But then you want to go deeper in each of these things. So that's why we have two columns here. Once for the lead, and once to go deeper. This will help you fill the page, and this will help you really get the points that you need. So once you've answered the who, what, where, why, when, and how in your lead, you can combine these into one sentence, and that will basically make the lead for your news report. You also want to remember that on your news report, you want to break it up into several short paragraphs. So remember, you want to have a lead that is the first few lines of your newspaper report. Then try to have maybe three short body paragraphs, and then a conclusion or closing at the end. So this is a good strategy on the actual test. If you just put lines beside to sort of remind you where you should have your paragraph breaks, that will help you to organize your newspaper report. So on the literacy test, here's a lead for a newspaper report that I wrote. The lead should answer the who, what, where, why, when, and how in a very general sense. So on June 21st, 2013, students from Ursuline College Chatham, if you use our school in your newspaper report, you have to say Ursuline College Chatham the first time. You can't say UCC, because if you say UCC, not everybody knows what you're talking about. Students from Ursuline College Chatham voted for a new student council in a highly controversial election. Okay, I answered the what. It's an important election. I say it's highly controversial. I need to explain more on that, but I've done the job for the lead. I've identified that it's highly controversial. Students from Ursuline College, the date. I've identified a number of things. Now in the body, my job is to go deeper and explain those in more depth. Here are the next two paragraphs of this newspaper report I wrote. Students lined up in the cafeteria to cast their paper ballots. The main issue in this election was the decision to allocate more funding to arts or sports. I'm really just expanding on the idea of the highly controversial election, because I needed to provide some more information about that. So I thought I'd better do that at the beginning. Remember, it's important that in your newspaper report that your most important ideas come at the beginning. Sometimes it's important to think of it as an inverted paragraph. Your most important, your biggest, your key ideas at the beginning, and then as your news report goes on, it will narrow down to your least important ideas. Remember, newspaper readers are lazy readers. They want the most important things at the beginning and the least important details at the end, because they might not read the whole newspaper report. A good way to expand on your newspaper report is to follow this sort of structure when writing a paragraph. A person's name, then tuck some non-essential information in using commas. Said, and then their quote. So for instance, Stephanie Brown, again, make up a name, make sure you use first and last names here. Stephanie Brown, a grade 10 student and first-time voter. said, "I'm really excited to vote for the first time. I think Student Council should definitely give more money to sports. We desperately need some new hockey equipment." Again, it's just adding details, creating the details, giving the reader a sense of what the event is about. Again, here's that same structure. Hank Miller, comma, one of the student organizers, comma, thinks that democracy is really important. If people don't vote, it's like saying they don't care. He is happy with the turnout this day, saying that almost 70% of students had voted by lunch. 70%. This is a good example of a specific detail. Instead of saying something like a lot of students voted or almost all the students voted, give a specific number. This is also a good example of the difference between a direct quote, one where you quote exactly what they say and use quotation marks. For instance, if people don't vote, it's like saying they don't care. This is also an example of an indirect quote, saying that almost 70% of students had voted by lunch. Those probably aren't his exact words, but that's the gist of it. That's almost exactly what he said. So that's an example of an indirect quote. We recommend that you have at least one indirect and one direct quote in your newspaper report, although the directions don't actually say that. So don't forget to include quotes in your newspaper report. Finally, to end off your newspaper report, you want to give the reader somewhere to go or make them feel good about what they've just read. The results of the election will be announced tomorrow, when the new Student Council will have to wrestle with the decision of funding. The results will also be available on the Ursuline College website, www.uccschool.ca. A website is a great way to give people somewhere to go for more information. So that's it. That's what you need to do to write a successful newspaper report. Your teacher's going to give you a newspaper report now, and I'd like you to practice these steps and write a newspaper report. I will be taking a look at them, and I'll be visiting this class again next week, and we will take a look at these newspaper reports together. Remember, this is worth 12% of your literacy test, so you want to spend no more than 18 minutes on this task. Okay? Good luck. See you next week.